Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. It's a game from round 2, or I should say round 1, game 2. It's the Women's World Championship match being played in Sochi, Russia. What it is, it's a knockout tournament where the pairings play 2 games. Whoever is ahead in the 2 games moves on to the next round. Player that loses is dropped out. If they tie, there are tie-break games, and that's a fairly complicated process. But this is game 2 of round 1. As white, Irina Berezina, and as black, former women's world champion Alexander Kosteniuk. Interesting game. That's why I picked it out. I hope you enjoy it. Berezina is white. Kosteniuk is black. It's going to be an open Catalan. Let's get to it. Pawn takes. Bishop. Knight. Castles. Rook b8. Pretty standard stuff. Rook b8 is the choice of the computer. It's theory. It is what it is. Rook e1. Bishop e7, e4. White's got a really good center here, but this is Kosteniuk. She's former women's world champion, world-class player. She's a grandmaster, over 2,500 now. I do have to say that white is rated 2182. It's about less than 400. It's 360 odd rating point difference. You'll get this in women's chess, especially where you get the flip-flop in rating. Castles for Kosteniuk. Knight to c3 for Berezina. b5. Now that's the last book move according to the computer. a3, of course, so don't chase the knight off. Knight to a5. Looking to get that knight in here. That'd be pretty much a pain in the behind. It will hit this pawn. It'll control these squares here. Bishop f4. Knight goes to b3. Can't really stop it. Rook to b1. Really cuts down the scope of that. Bishop 2. Now you see the rook can't move here. Queen can't move here. It's a pain in the behind. a6. Queen e2. Looking to get the queen out of the way, plus bring the b rook to d1 eventually. Bishop b7 and rook over. Now that pretty much solved the problem with that knight, but he still covers some key squares, but you can always chase him off with knight here down the road. Rook over. h3. Didn't really want that knight getting in there for whatever reason. Queen d7. Okay, let's take a look at the position now. It's about a point advantage for black. I see an advantage, but I don't see a whole point. We'll have to see how this works out. g4, which was the entire point of h3. Rook over. g5. Here we go. Now, I do have to give the girl credit. She's almost outrated by 400 ELO points. And she's going for it. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Kosteniuk won the first game. So, Berezina has to win in order to stay alive in the knockout tournament. Knight to h5. Bishop goes to e3. g6. Interesting. Knight to e5. And that's showing what white wants to do. White wants to bring the knight to g4 and then eventually h6. Queen to c8. Bishop f3 to hit the knight. Knight goes to g7. Knight goes to g4. Here we go. c5. Trying to open it up a little bit. D takes. Now, rook takes d1 as the computer's choice. Rook to f8. Kosteniuk decides to go queen to c6, which really surprises me. Well, we see the pawn can't move. That's one thing, because there's a queen-bishop battery coming down to pick up that bishop. But Right now, believe it or not, white is up a little bit, a quarter point, considering a half a point now according to the computer. Now, considering that black was up a full pawn, I think white's doing okay considering her rating and who she's up against. Now, what would you do here as white? We're all human beings. We're not computers. We're not going to make the exact move, but I think she made the very human move and went knight to h6 check. And the computer shows a double question mark. It went from a half-point advantage for white to almost a point advantage over a point advantage now for black instantly. Now, that's a natural move. King f8. Rook takes, h4. Okay. Looks like white's king is going to get busted open. And whereas it seems to be a lot of protection around white's king, but you're going to see it deteriorates quickly. And it all starts with this dumb knight that we all thought was out of play. Bishop takes, queen takes, bishop g4. Rook d3. It's an almost 2-point advantage for black at this point. And white really looks okay, but the problem is the bishop on g4. The knight can't get out to help defend. There's a lot going on here that it's just not working out for white. Rook to f1. Wow. Rook to d1. Rook to b1. Knight a2. Those are all the choices. They're all crappy choices, but it's better than queen to f1 because what happens is knight to d2. And white's just getting killed. Queen moves. Now the computer likes knight to h5. But knight to h4 is a really good move. What is she going to do? She can't take because the bishop is on the queen. Knight takes, pawn takes, e-pawn, bishop e2, rook d6. And look at this. Black's only up a pawn, but it's almost a 4-point advantage. It's resignable at this point. I mean, she's going to have to suffer through it. Bishop f3. What else can she do? Queen e5. And this is the difference between a good player and a great player. Nothing against white. We're up against the former women's world champion, a regular grandmaster, not just a women's grandmaster. Nothing against the girls, but there is a big difference. Rook to d1. F takes. I mean, it's just a mess. Bishop g4. I mean, look at this. That bishop on b7 is a freaking monster. a5. Rook e1. Trying to hang on. b4. Pawn takes. And that's it. That's where white threw in the towel. So Alexandra Kosteniuk advances to the second round of the Women's World Championships knockout setup. Feel bad for white, but just completely outplayed. Give you an idea what would have happened after the knight moves. e3, hitting the queen. I mean, the queen can't take, or it's over. Rook has to take the pawn. Queen takes. Queen takes. Queen f4. Rook checks. King g7. And that's it. Queen can go back to g2, but knight e4 is just a killer. So, tough break for the kid playing white. I thought it was an interesting game. I do have to say, I went on livestream.com. And you can check out the Women's World Championship. You punch that in the search engines, and it'll give you the commentary of all the rounds. And what I really like is, what they do on this one is they'll show the board as the commentators are talking about each game. But they'll also show the feed live in the playing hall. Get close-ups on the players. It isn't the same setup with the commentators. You see them going over games. You can hear them in the background, but you're actually seeing the playing hall and the close-ups of the players and the game they're talking about. I think it's a much better format. Anyway, folks, as I always say, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.